Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. This is the story about What If Naruto Was Immortal. Naruto X Bleach Part 4. Before I start the video, please subscribe the channel for more fanfiction video and please share this video with your friends. This story was written by Kenshi 618. With any more interruption, let's start the video. Naruto sat in a guest room in Kuikaku's house on the floor with a piece of paper in his lap and a pen in his hand. Let's see. Who do I want? They need to be able to see ghosts and the like, and they need to not be dead. That narrows it down a bit, he said to himself as he felt a cat hop on his shoulder, bringing a grin to his face. Yoruichi-chan. You do know that every time you get into that form all I can think about is you being naked, right? Don't scratch me, he said sternly, turning to the cat who had her claws out before putting them behind her back sheepishly. So what are you doing in here thinking so hard, Naruto? Yoruichi asked as she jumped off of his shoulder onto the ground. You're thinking so hard I think I can hear your brain cooking in there. Naruto gave her a dry look and flipped over his notebook to reveal only Ichigo's name on the paper. He's the only one I can think of that can and might help me. Of course he'd probably turn me down just to spite me, damn brat. Yoruichi gave him a strange look. What about the others? Naruto sighed. I would have said Uryu too, but I can't sense any power from him anymore. Did he lose it or is he really good at hiding it? Yoruichi's downcast look told him everything. He lost it. Shaking his head, he kept going through the list of Ryoka. Well, Chad is a maybe, but he doesn't seem to be all that into the fighting thing. He seems like a reactionary kind of guy. Not the type suited for the work I'm going to be doing. Orihime. She's gorgeous and I absolutely love her personality, but again, she isn't a fighter. Maybe I can have her on as a medic of sorts or something though. He shrugged. Well, in the end it's up to them. Yoruichi nodded before giving him a sly look. Will you have them all figured out? What about me? Naruto looked at her in surprise as she began to walk around him in a circle, stopping behind his back out of his sight. Don't you give me that look. I'm strong, I'm willing to get my hands dirty on this, I'm experienced. Give me a reason that my name wasn't the first one to hit that page. He felt her transform and then drape herself over his back with her arms wrapped around his neck gently. Well? Come on now, Naruto, I'm waiting, she said sweetly with a smile right next to his face. Naruto's eye twitched as he could feel every curve on her body pressed up against him. Kami. I wish you wouldn't tease me like this, Yoruichi-chan. It's so not fair. That should be the first reason you're not on the list, because you're an eternal tease. He felt her tighten his grip on him and decided to explain why he hadn't thought to include her. I didn't think you'd want to do it. I thought you would stay here and rejoin up with the Gotei 13, or if nothing else keep working with Urahara. Surprising Naruto, Yoruichi scoffed and nuzzled her cheek against his. When I left all of my positions and titles behind. I would have to start from the very bottom if I came back, and I'll be damned if I go back to school and work my way up from ground level all over again like some kind of chump. Besides, working with people like Kazuki and you is way more fun than being a Shinigami for them. He would probably even help you out too. Naruto held up his pen. So, I can mark you down as wanting to be on this little team of mine? The dark-skinned beauty nodded happily. Sweet. Now my team has sex appeal. His grin turned rather lecherous. So how should we celebrate the occasion of you offering your services to my little squad? I choose the have sex option. Yoruichi let go of him and let him get a full view of her, in all of her glory, seemingly not caring as she held her hands on her hips, allowing her breasts to jiggle. How about we pick the I get dressed, and you pick your jaw up off of the ground option? She said, smiling as she took delight in the power she had over perhaps the strongest newcomer to the spiritual world she had ever seen. Soy Fan would kill you if she could smell you on me anyway. So as having sex would get you killed. Naruto spoke in a dry voice. I don't care. I've lived a good, long life and you're a damn goddess. I'd die for it. She watched her laugh and walk out of the room. I'm not giving up, Yoruichi-chan. He yelled after her. I'm going to win you over once and for all one of these days. And you will love me. And make love to me. He thought for a moment and then added something. And if Soy Fan ever wanted to join in too, that would be just okay with me. Dadbeo. He pinched his nose in annoyance and sighed, "Fuck, still?" "Datbeo." He had Yoruichi yell out from elsewhere in the house, laughing loudly afterwards. "Aw, that's so cute. You have a little verbal tick." Kuakaku. Guess what Naruto says from time to time when he gets worked up? "I don't know." He heard the lady of the house respond before Yoruichi whispered to her, as if it mattered at this point. Kuakaku broke down in laughter. "Datbeo? Are you serious? I thought it might have been something cool. Does that even mean anything?" "Okay," Naruto said, standing up and placing his list in a ceiling scroll with his other possessions. "That's enough making fun of me. It's time to go somewhere where I can get some respect around here." He threw his sage coat on and left the house, having to pass by the two raucously laughing women that saw him and laughed harder. Hearing them call for Ganju was the last straw as he kicked it into high gear from then on out. XXX. Seirei 12th Division Headquarters, Shinigami Research and Development Institute. Naruto arrived and Mayuri seemingly noticed the second he stepped onto the division grounds because within 15 minutes of walking through the gates he found himself inside the research institute in a small room sitting on a medical table as a man with brown spiky hair, a few small horns in his forehead, and a lab coat over his Shinigami uniform checked something off on a clipboard. "Alright Uzumaki-san. In just a moment you'll be receiving your physical." "Physical?" Naruto repeated inquisitively. That was why he was there? Why in the hell would he go all the way there for a physical, one he didn't need by the way, when there was a much more appealing option for a potential physical? "I could have gone to Retsu-chan for a physical. She's hot. Why am I sitting here for a damn physical? I'm as healthy as a horse, an immortal horse." The man shrugged rather apologetically. "You volunteered for this the other day, Uzumaki-san. Now the lieutenant will be here any moment to commence with the physical and primary experiments. If you need anything in the meantime, I am Akon." He bowed to Naruto and left the room, leaving the blonde to pout to himself. "I can't believe this crap," he muttered to himself as he sat on the table with his arms crossed, looking around. There wasn't a damn thing in there except the table he was sitting on and a chair nearby. "This sucks. It's cold in here, and some weird lieutenant is going to come in here and poke at me. I hate trying to be helpful." She shut his eyes and tilted his head back to look at the ceiling when he heard the door open. "Oi, alright, let's get this show on the road." "Sorry to keep you waiting, Uzumaki-san," a delicate female voice said, getting Naruto to turn his neck down so fast he got a miniature head rush. He got an eyeful of a young woman with green eyes and black hair pulled into a braid going down her back with two bangs framing both sides of her face. A face that had a rather melancholic look on it. Her Shinigami outfit had rather loose sleeves, and came up far shorter on her legs than any other he had seen before. She had on white fingerless gloves as well. "Shall we begin?" Naruto blinked and looked around her trying to see if there was anyone else that was to come in. "You're the lieutenant I'm supposed to have been waiting on?" She nodded and bowed to him. "Yes, I am Kuretsuchi Nemu. Kuretsuchi Taiko's daughter and lieutenant of the 12th Division as well as vice president of the Shinigami Research and Development Institute. It is a pleasure to meet you." Naruto smiled at her and extended a hand. "Same here. I'm Uzumaki Naruto. So what am I here for, Nemu-chan?" She seemed rather sweet. If he had a tail he swore it would have been wagging at this point. She looked at his hand and then back to his face, her expression never changing. "What's wrong?" Nemu shook her head as she looked over a clipboard. "Nothing is wrong, Uzumaki-san. Why do you ask?" Naruto blinked and retracted his hand. "Well, most people would have shaken my hand or something. It's alright I guess," he said as he watched her pace around slowly and go through whatever was on the clipboard. "So what am I supposed to do here?" Nemu looked up at him from the clipboard and answered him. "First we'll need to take some blood to study." Naruto nodded. "Okay, cool. Then what?" "Then I was instructed to get your physical specs such as height, weight, age, and come up with a way to label you," Nemu said informatively. Again, a nod came from Naruto as he gave her a comfortable smile. There wasn't anything too weird going on so far. "Okay. All of that is still easy except for the age thing. I don't think I can be exact. I don't really go year by year anymore. Is there anything else?" "Yes. Nemu said without hesitation. The last thing meant to be collected from you is potential reproductive material. I was intended to assist you with that part in particular. And with that, the smile on Naruto's face became rather strained as his mind battled with the potential prospects of what she said. What in the hell? Did she just say? He could have made his own conclusion on the matter, but he still had to ask her to make sure he actually had it right. And by collecting my reproductive material you mean? Not missing a beat, Nemu quickly answered him. I am to engage in intercourse with you, Uzumaki-san. It was meant to be the final thing, but if you would prefer, we could proceed with it first. She began to reach back to undo her obi when Naruto's hand stopped her. Is there a problem? Hell no. Let's do this. That was what he wanted to say out loud, but damn him and his chivalry. He had to quickly squash that line of thinking. What the hell was wrong with him? He was passing up a chance to get laid because it was wrong. And Nemu was cute, really cute as the majority of Shinigami girls he had met were, but she couldn't have been okay with this. Nemu-chan. He said, keeping her from doing anything else. You don't have to do that. Don't. Tilting her head in confusion, the stoic girl blinked at him. It is an order from Kuretsuchi Taiko. And I have read the issue of Seirei Communication Monthly that you more or less commandeered. Wouldn't something like this be enjoyable to you? Yes. Naruto freely admitted, yes it would. And I'm fairly certain that I'd wind up putting a smile on that pretty face of yours too, but this isn't right. Not only that, but if the guy was willing to send his daughter to do something like this for him, he sure as hell didn't want to fork over any kind of reproductive stuff to him. No way in hell he was letting a lunatic like that get a hold of any potential future awesome, which is all that any offspring of his could ever wind up being. However, the fact that he would outlive his kids never appealed to him, thus he never attempted it. Wait, could I even get a soul pregnant? He shook his head. Never mind, don't answer that. I don't even want to know. He jumped up off of the table. Where is this guy? He and I are probably going to have a problem or two. Nemu looked at him impassively. Very well. If you wish to see the captain, then follow me, Uzumaki-san, she said before exiting the room. Wait. Naruto shouted after her as he pulled on his pants. Let me get redressed first. I'm not walking around here naked. Hey. It didn't take him too long to get his shirt and shoes on, allowing him to chase after her while he threw his sage coat back on. He quickly caught up and fell into step with her as she led him to where that weird-looking captain he volunteered to do this for was stationed. Why does she look so detached all of the time? I don't think I can get a smile out of this girl. He thought to himself as they walked through the halls of the facility. Whoa, what are those? Naruto asked as they passed by a lab with a multitude of bodies that had the appearance of humans that had stopped being created at the muscle layer. Freaky. Nemu noticed what he was looking at and answered him. Those are Gigai, faux bodies. They're how Shinigami conduct long-term missions in the world of the living. After a Shinigami hosts one, it takes on their appearance and can be seen by humans in the living world. She motioned to the lab they were passing. We designed them here. This is one of the things that our division is known for taking care of. Naruto looked at the Gigai until they got out of looking distance. Fake bodies ready for a soul to inhabit, huh? Orochimaru sure would have loved that idea. I'm surprised he never tried it. Eventually they made their way to an office that was pretty dimly lit and had 3 computers, behind them a rather large formation of things that Naruto first thought resembled a pipe organ. Oi, scientist Captain Man, I think that you and I have a gripe here. Sitting at the computer, the man turned around with his rather skeletal visage. Really, and just what sort of grievance do you have against me? He said as he got up and walked towards Naruto. The blonde of interest pointed at Nemu. What's this about wanting to collect my seed? First of all, I appreciate the sentiment of sending her because she's super adorable, but then again I resent it on so many levels. He pointed to himself vengefully. No one's making any mormies anyway. There can be only one. I see, Mayuri said in a rather disappointed voice. Well, I had intended to be nice about it and use one of your offspring as a test subject instead of you yourself. Collecting the blood and other things from you were just means of a control for the eventual experimentation. But you say that there can be only one, so I'll have to experiment on you then. He said, not really as a threat, but as if it was already done. Naruto backed away a few steps. Yeah, about that. I'm not really too stoked about being stuck in some kind of observation cell being prodded and stuff, so how about we don't experiment on me and I don't blow this place to smithereens trying to escape. He then pulled on his own cheeks. Besides, there isn't too much special about me when it comes down to it. I'm a human. A human that claims to be immortal and has a rather high level of strange power. Mayuri corrected for him, getting him to step back a bit further, ready to bolt for the hills when the mad scientist turned towards Nemu. You weren't supposed to tell him that you were intending to do such a thing to him, you useless creature. He raised his hand and released a backhand slap. However, before it hit her, she disappeared in a puff of smoke and a chair fell to the ground in her place. Don't do that. Naruto growled out lowly, holding Nemu to his side before letting her go. What the hell was that all about? You don't just hit girls. Especially girls that are supposed to be your daughter, you bastard? Mayuri's ever-present grin never left his face as he responded. Nemu is my daughter, yes, my artificially created daughter. She can take a lot more damage than a simple tap like the one I was planning to give her. And I don't see how your opinion would matter, seeing as how test subjects usually don't get an opinion on anything. Naruto ran a hand through his hair. If you lay a hand on me or you hit her in my presence again, I'm taking the hand that you used right off of your body. Then you can study exactly how I kick your ass. We can run a test on that if you want to, he threatened. Having known that Naruto had been fighting on more than even grounds with Captain Commander Yamamoto during the turmoil in the Seirei and having come out relatively unscathed in the process, Mayuri knew that Naruto was both willing to fight him here, and more than capable of tearing the place apart if he tried to simply grab him and capture him for study. He had just recently recovered from what had happened with the Quincy boy that had fought him and forced him to retreat, and his body wasn't fully in condition for combat yet. He also didn't know enough about Naruto and his fighting ability to aptly go into combat with him. No, a fight here would cause too much damage in his laboratory and would destroy too much research. For the moment he would just have to let Naruto's insolence slide. After all, he said he was immortal. That meant that he had all the time in the world to find some way to study the man, learn something about how he fought, and then he would capture him and learn just what made him tick. And from the way Naruto had sprung to his daughter's defense, he figured he had a rather decent way to get some of this information on him. Mayuri stiffly nodded to Naruto, who had not taken his eyes off of him as he let his Ryotsu start to leak out at the scientist's silence. Naruto let the pressure ease up as he accepted this for the time being. Turning to Nemu, he tried to give her a reassuring smile. If you ever need some help or if you want to talk about something, Nemu-chan, just see if you can find me. I'm always willing to help certain people out. Hook, line, and sinker. And Mayuri didn't even have to do anything to set it all up. As Naruto began walking away out of the building back through the halls, Mayuri called for Nemu. Nemu, it seems like I'll have a use for you after all. I want you to grow rather close to Uzumaki and find out how he goes about doing anything. Everything, find out anything that you can. This is your new mission. Nemu simply nodded wordlessly, stretching the grin on Mayuri's face further. XXX. 11th Division Headquarters. Dojo Room. Naruto was seated in the lotus position in the middle of the room, his shoes and sage coat off as he sat with his eyes closed. They finally snapped open as the members of the division that were present all sat in a single file line in front of him at a far wall. After his little trip to the 12th Division, Naruto was in something of a foul mood and decided that if he was going to vent, it might as well have been on a group of people who wanted to do nothing but fight anyway. He stood straight up and pointed at the group of men, picking out 3 of them, you, and you. All of you get up and take me on. He saw them argue about who was supposed to go first and he cut them off. No, you're all coming at me at the same time. That way it's a little bit more fair. Now bring it on, he barked. We only fight one-on-one in this division. One of the chosen Shinigami yelled out to him. Any other way would be dishonorable to us. Fine then, tough guy. Naruto snapped back at him. I was trying to make it fair so that I might take a hit or two, but if you're going to be that way then you can be first. Now get in here. The Shinigami eagerly jumped into the fray, drawing his Bakken, only to notice that Naruto was simply standing there with his arms crossed. Do you need a weapon? Naruto shook his head. Just attack me already. I'll be fine. I know what I'm doing, And don't give me any of that fair fight crap. My hands are the most dangerous weapons in existence. Now begin. The man ran at Naruto and began taking swings with the wooden sword as well as taking attempted jabs at Naruto's belly, hitting nothing but air each time. After one stab at his torso in particular, Naruto spun out of the way and swept low with a spinning rear sweep kick. Konoha Leaf Gale. The kick sent the man spinning on his back swiftly into the lineup of the other members sitting in the room, knocking more than a few of them out. Naruto stood back up straight with his body set in his taijutsu stance. Now anyone who wants to try their luck, please come on down. With that, one by one, the members of the battle-loving squad came in to attack Naruto, who brushed them off relatively easily. One of them came in with a few vertical and horizontal swipes before being knocked unconscious by a flurry of uncountable punches to the face. Another one slashed downward at Naruto, who caught his attack by the wrist and spun around to jerk him off of the ground and throw him into a wall, knocking him out. Trying to rush in and try his luck next, one man rushed at Naruto only to get dropped with a hard side kick to the stomach. The blonde then ducked a swing coming for his head and ripped the attacker's belt off, pantsing him and distracting him long enough for Naruto to knock him out with a rising palm strike that landed right under his chin and lifted him off of the ground. Naruto let him limply hit the ground and cracked his knuckles before catching a bakken in his grasp and pulling in the person who had swung it. Lariat. He pulled him in and hit him right at the neck and under the chin with his bicep and the inside of his elbow, knocking him out. Naruto watched the man hit the ground and shook his entire body out. Come on, who's next? I've got all day, and a whole can of whoop ass for each and every one of you. Get a seated officer in here so I can get a fight. He then felt a tug at his pant leg and turned down to see a little girl with pink hair in a Shinigami outfit. Yes, can I help you? What's your name? He said nicely to her, getting a smile from her. I'm Kusajishi Yachiru, she said brightly until she was able to get a good look at his face. She then quickly scampered up his body and deposited herself on his back to grab at his cheeks and pull on his whiskers. Naruto laughed slightly at the girl pulling on his cheeks. It was very common to him after the age of Shinobi ended and clan markings and the like fell out of the realm of normality. Everyone loved the whisker marks, it seemed, especially members of the opposite sex. No matter the age, you can call me that if you want to, I guess. Yachiru-chan. A shout of "chance" from another of the 11th Division member gave way to Naruto turning to the attacker and glaring at him dangerously, releasing a level of Ryotsu that stopped him in his tracks. I can stop people just by bullying them with this stuff. Awesome. He then spoke, scaring the attacker more than he already had been. Not with the girl on my back. But she's the lieutenant. The man cowered as he dropped his weapon and backed away. Naruto blinked and dropped the crushing feeling of his Ryotsu and looked at the cute little girl on his back who was still pulling on his cheeks. You're the lieutenant? He asked her curiously. He had known that the Hitsugaya guy looked young and was a captain, but he actually carried himself as an adult, albeit one that looked like a kid. This was different, way different. Yep. Yachiru replied cheerfully as she hopped over the back of his head and landed on the ground in front of him. You're really strong, Whiskers. Ken-chan is going to like fighting you. Ken-chan? Naruto asked. Who the hell is Ken-chan and why would he want to fight me? A powerful aura set over the dojo originating from behind Naruto, who turned around to see the massive captain with the bells in his hair and the eye patch. Oh, Zaraki Kenpachi. He looked at the height and weight discrepancy between them and frowned. Fuck. He then burst into smoke as a log that had been cut in half landed on the ground. Kenpachi had a bloodthirsty grin on his face as he saw the log hit the ground. Where did he go? And where did he get the log from? That is not the question you should be asking, Naruto yelled from just outside of the dojo window as he leaned on the sill. The question you should be asking is how to make the log appear for you. He gestured grandly to the world around him. There's always a log. But you have to believe that it's there. He lowered his voice to a whisper. You have to believe. He then ducked as a few hair follicles were separated from his scalp. Oi! That was close, you jerk. He screamed like a girl when he dodged another swing and took off running as the large captain barreled through the window with Yachiru on his back laughing gleefully. "Why are you running?" Kenpachi asked as he continued bounding after Naruto. "Why don't you fight me like you did the old fart?" Naruto turned back. Kenpachi wasn't as fast as him. If he had to run, he probably could have and gotten away. "Okay, let's play." Naruto grinned at him. A good fight was never really something he liked turning down, because, "This is how I fight." Naruto turned around and threw a kick that Kenpachi blocked with one arm, strong. He then disappeared in a blur before Kenpachi could cut through him. The large combat-loving captain grinned as he took several hard punches that he couldn't see to the face and the body. He let Naruto land those punches to see how strong he was, and from the bruises beginning to form on his mostly bare torso he liked the results. It took Ichigo nearly getting killed before he could even start hurting me. He licked his lips evilly. "Yachiru, hop off of my shoulder would you?" "Yay!" she shouted as she jumped off and landed on a nearby rooftop. "Ken-chan is going to play." Before Naruto could hit him again, Kenpachi took a swing at his side that resulted in a loud clang, signifying that he had been blocked by Naruto. Naruto found himself being pushed back and also saw that his kunai had been cut into with the sword. "Damn, you're so lucky I have my good swords stashed in the world of the living," he said with a grin. Kenpachi returned the grin with one of his own. "That's a shame. You really could have used one right now as far as I can see," he said as he began to run at Naruto and drive him back into a nearby wall, destroying it. Wah! Naruto was thrown from the rubble and debris before rolling to his feet with a kunai in his hand. A tag attached to the back. "Eat this then." Naruto threw it at Kenpachi and watched as he caught it in his hand. "Is that the best you can do?" Kenpachi taunted. "Where's the power that put the old fart Yamamoto on edge? I thought you were dangerous." Naruto smirked and pointed at his head, tapping his temple. "This is the most dangerous thing about me." Boom! The tag attached to the kunai he threw at Kenpachi finished burning down and exploded in his hand and face. "I'm supposed to be unpredictable." He then started cackling madly. Cackling that was matched by a figure in the smoke from Naruto's explosive attack. "You still want to fight, don't you?" "Absolutely." Kenpachi shouted in glee as the smoke cleared to reveal nothing more than a few slight singe marks on his clothes. "Let's see what's more dominant. Your unpredictability or my insanity." Naruto cursed to himself as the large man charged back towards him. Note to self. Against stronger souls, explosive notes do all of nothing except make pretty distractions. He rolled under Kenpachi's opening slash and got back to his feet inside of his guard, where he unloaded a heavy right hand to his body that put a smile on his face when he heard him exhale. Looking up at the man's face, however, he still saw nothing but a grin. "Nothing? Really?" Kenpachi shook his head. "Oh, it rattled a few ribs around for sure, but that's nothing to me. You'll have to fight me with intent to kill to even come close to wounding me bad enough." He then grabbed a hold of Naruto's arm. "I know how to fight you now. You like using space to get angles on opponents and jumping back out of range once you do your damage. Well then, how about this?" He went to slash at Naruto, who he still had a hold of, only to find that Naruto caught his strike with his one free arm. Now both of their arms were bound and useless. "You're not as flimsy as you look, Uzumaki." Naruto bared his teeth as he strained to hold back the powerful man. He was like a rhino. He was so strong. I'll take that as a compliment. He headbutted Kenpachi in the chest 3 times only to give himself a headache. He looked back up at Kenpachi, who was still trying to cut him but still couldn't move. However, Naruto's arm was shaking dangerously. Naruto glared defiantly and kept headbutting Kenpachi again and again. "Come on, you big bastard. Drop the sword." Headbutting Kenpachi was similar to headbutting a brick wall. It gave him a headache, but he knew it hurt. He could feel Kenpachi's ribs and breastbone giving way every time he struck with his skull. "Those are good hits," Kenpachi yelled, seemingly happy that Naruto was doing him harm on the inside. "Now for mine." He finally overpowered Naruto, as if he had been playing before, and cut Naruto across his chest. Naruto grit his teeth in pain as he refused to yell from the slash. "Fine, now it's my turn again." He formed a blue ball of energy in his newly free hand and slammed it into Kenpachi's body. Rasengan, spiraling sphere. He saw the attack begin to carve into some kind of yellow aura around Kenpachi that he eventually broke through and started doing damage to his body directly as he started carving into the man and wounding him. Kenpachi's grip on Naruto's arm refused to loosen as he rooted his feet into the ground through the pavement. He was not getting blown away with this attack. This guy. I like this guy. He thought as he lifted his sword and slashed into Naruto's smaller frame again, grinning madly when he didn't let go of his attack. Seemingly being given the green light, Kenpachi began cutting freely into Naruto's torso, leaving wounds all over his body. Naruto's force on the Rasengan grew weaker and weaker with every hit he took from the powerful captain. I really wish I would have put some Kage Bunshin up for Sage Mode before I came here. How was I supposed to know that I was going to wind up fighting Juggernaut Man here? Fine then. I guess he can take me trying to kill him a little bit. From Naruto's sleeve, a hidden kunai emerged that Naruto used to pump wind chakra into. Heen, flying swallow. Naruto slashed at Kenpachi with the blade and cut his sword arm before using the weapon to stab into the arm that had the hold on him, forcing him to let go, finally allowing Naruto to get away. The two squared off with many of the 11th Division paying close attention to the battle. Naruto took note of the wounds on his body and found that thankfully they were healing rather quickly. They had even stopped bleeding. Kenpachi had blood flowing from a rather deep-looking spiral groove drilled into his chest and had a deep wound going through his left wrist, but the battle-hungry look on his face hadn't wavered in the slightest. Okay, that's enough fun for one day. You're running away? Kenpachi said, almost in disbelief. He was enjoying the battle. Naruto hadn't backed up a step since the fight started. He hadn't run away, he hadn't cowered when he had been caught. He hadn't quit or even accepted defeat as a possibility for even a moment. And in addition to that, he looked durable as hell. He wasn't even breathing hard or faltering a bit from the wounds he had taken. And Kenpachi knew he had cut deep from the amount of blood that was still steadily dripping from his Zanpakuto. How disappointing. Naruto grinned at him, categorizing his wounds as mere trifles at the moment. They were slashes. Stabs would have been far more serious, and then he would have been a bit more inclined to be serious. Well, I'm not really at my best here. He admitted, yeah. I would destroy too much stuff around here if I started going harder. I tore apart a third of a forest fighting Soifan and Yamamoto Jiji and I blew up the Tsukyoku thing. Remember? He saw Kenpachi's grin grow more insane than before. Something tells me that I shouldn't have reminded him that I can do way better than this. Then we'll have to do this some other time, Uzumaki. Kenpachi relented. You and Ichigo. Now I have two people that I'm just dying to fight again. He laughed in anticipation of an all-out fight against both of them. Especially now that Ichigo's Bankai was common knowledge. You'd better keep getting stronger. Now Naruto could have been responsible and simply accepted his new barbaric stalker, but he wasn't feeling too responsible right now. Yeah. Well, you should probably beat Ichigo first. He's a good warm-up for me. Once you beat Ichigo, I'll find you and fight you, and you won't even have to look for me, he said with a thumbs up before running away with swift release. He didn't really want to throw Ichigo under that bus, but to hell with that. He didn't need any new people that wanted to kick his ass. He had a lifetime full of that already and enough new enemies in front of him and on the horizon. Bye, Whiskers. Yachiru yelled after his blurring image, come back and play again sometime. XXX. Later 4th Division Headquarters, Captain Unohana's office, quarters. Is there something in the water in this place or something, Retsu-chan? Naruto asked rhetorically as he sat on the woman's desk. Bandages on his bare torso from a quick round of medical work. First there's that Mayuri guy, who I want to punch in the face. And then there's Zaraki Kenpachi, who seems to want to fight me to the death at full power now. Unohana smiled at him as she sat at her desk. We have a few eccentric cases abound in the Seirei. You learn to live with things around here. As a matter of fact, you actually aren't doing that bad of a job at fitting in. She looked at a slightly exposed part of one of Naruto's wounds with a scrutinizing eye. You have a very high speed level of healing, Uzumaki-san. Naruto grinned at her and poked at the wound she was looking at, prompting her to slap his hand away lest he make it worse. It's more along the lines of damn near being regeneration. I heal really fast and I don't get scars. I don't know if I could lose a limb and grow it back, but thankfully I've never had to test that out. He joked to her. Do you think that I would be able to examine and study it? She asked before blinking as Naruto quickly scuttled away to the other side of the room. She then remembered what was said at the last captain's meeting. What's the mat? Oh, Kuretsuchi Taiko. She got a nod from Naruto. I see. I wouldn't worry too much about it. He has to actually find a way to capture you and keep you for anything to be done to you. Naruto gave her a deadpan look. You know, that doesn't really make me feel any better about an insane scientist after my manly juices among other things. He then decided to ask her a question. Hey, weird question Retsu-chan. I'm a human, so do you know whether or not I could even get a soul pregnant in the first place? The smile dropped from her face as she took some time to think about it. You know, I have no idea. I don't have any recollection of that being in our records, so I wouldn't know. I would assume you could. She shrugged. I would guess that it would be something to think about. Do you have any offspring in the world of the living? Naruto rapidly shook his head. No. No way. How could I do something like that? I could never. I would outlive any kid I wound up having by years and years. Besides, the world doesn't need another ninja like me. They do a good enough job of killing themselves without more human weapons. Is that all you think of yourself as, Uzumaki-san? Hana asked sadly, but with some hint of anger in her voice. You cannot rightfully call yourself nothing more than a weapon. That's not fair to you. From what I've seen of you, you're a very kind and considerate person. Yes, you are very powerful, but to be so cruel to yourself as to label yourself a weapon. Here you would be a Shinigami, not a weapon. You're not that much different from us, and we're more than just weapons. She gave him a small smile. Just look at me. I'm a healer, not just a fighter. A laugh came from Naruto. Yep, I'm feeling better just looking at you, beautiful. He walked over to her desk as he put his cut-up shirt back on. And you don't have to call me Uzumaki. You can call me Naruto if you want to, Retsu-chan. Whatever you say, Uzumaki-san. Hana said pleasantly, but letting him know that she wasn't about to get that familiar yet, bringing fake tears to his eyes. However, do you think that you're really ready to leave the HQ yet? Your wounds are still rather fresh, she said with a slight threatening tone. Naruto smirked and pulled his shirt up, patting his bandages. Retsu-chan, I'm probably the easiest patient you're ever going to have. It takes an obscene amount of punishment to actually kill me, and I'll heal from pretty much anything that can be thrown at me in a single day at the longest. He pulled his shirt back down. I'd be surprised if these little baby scratches lasted the rest of the night without finishing healing up. But thank you for being worried about me. He grabbed his sage coat and threw it over his shoulder. I wish I could wash this right now though. I don't like having a bloody jacket. Standing up and extending her hand to take it from him, Hana surprised Naruto with her following proactive comment. I could always have my division wash it for you and return it if you'd like. It's no problem since they will be washing loads of things anyway. Naruto beamed at her. Thanks a lot, Retsu-chan. He handed it to her. That jacket is really important to me. I've had it a long time and I take really good care of it when I'm not getting it stabbed, slashed, burned, and shot through, he said mostly to himself. However, a giggle from Hana said that she had heard him as well. Anyway, I know you and your division will fix it up. If you need a favor from me, then feel free to ask me anything. She waved him off. I will keep that in mind, and I'll most certainly take good care of your jacket, Uzumaki-san. Datbeo. The look on his face when she said that last line to him was a combination of horror, embarrassment, and anger. The look on his face didn't subside even as Hana's melodious laughter rang out through the halls of the 4th Division headquarters. I'm going to go hang out with Ichigo for a bit, he said as he almost stormed out of her office temper tantrum style, this doing nothing to stop her from laughing at him. Can't believe it, I lost my cool in this place just as quickly as I got it. He grumbled to himself, the Shinigami in the halls giving him a wide berth as they could feel the ill intent rolling off of him. Oh, come back, Uzumaki-kun. Hana said in between her bouts of laughter. It's okay, I think it's rather cute. XXX. That evening, 2nd Division headquarters, Soifan's office, quarters. Soy Fan sat in the middle of a rather vacant room that she used to practice the motions of her Hakuda and to meditate as she was currently partaking in the latter. Suddenly her eyes snapped open and narrowed. "And what are you doing here again, Uzumaki?" she asked in an exasperated voice, though she didn't really have a problem with it. "Do you want me to kill you for trespassing?" "Come on now, Soy Fan," Naruto said as he suddenly appeared from his camouflage jutsu, standing against the wall of the room with his arms crossed as he smiled at her. "I've done stuff way worse than just drop in to say hi for you to want to kill me for this." He walked over and sat down in a similar manner right next to her. "So how was your day, oh Captain, my Captain?" "It was fine," she sighed out in a bored manner as she shut her eyes and pretended to be trying to get back into a meditative trance. The attitude she exuded was one that projected that Naruto was annoying her, but the truth was that she didn't mind his company whatsoever. She knew he was actually skilled and not really so goofy when the times required it, and it was actually nice to have someone that actually wanted to talk to her from time to time. The fact that he almost never took it personally when she pulled her Zanpakuto on him either was a plus as well. "But I've heard that you've been making a little ruckus with the 11th division. Naruto frowned as he followed suit with Soy Fan and shut his eyes to fake trying to achieve a trance. He was simply sitting like this in case she legitimately wanted to meditate and he was disturbing her. "So you heard about that, huh? Kami, that Zaraki Kenpachi is kind of crazy, isn't he? He wants to fight me at full power." "I want to fight you at full power as well," Soy Fan admitted, cracking an eye to give a rather shocked Naruto a stern glance. "I will not accept the results of our battle as the extent of the conflict." "I didn't lose, you didn't beat me." She stopped his reply by opening both of her eyes. "I will admit that you were more powerful than me when we fought, but that won't be the end of the issue. We will fight again one day. I will return the favor that you gave me, and maybe you'll be graced with the sight of my Bankai the next time around, or maybe my improved new special technique Shunku once I finish training it with Yoruichi-sama." Naruto was going to say that it was a bad idea for them to fight again, but once he began to focus on the tranquility of the room he noticed that there wasn't a single hint of ill intent from Soy Fan when she said that. That brought a smile to his face. "Well, anytime you feel like playing, feel free to look for me, Soy Fan. I'll play with you anytime if that's what you really want, as long as you don't kill me while we fight. We're supposed to be friends." She shut her eyes again and resumed her fake meditation to hide the fact that she was actually enjoying the conversation. "Well, if you survive me attacking you from the shadows when I find you, I'll think about sparing you after I embarrass you and defeat you." "Well," Naruto said, a toothy grin on his face, "how about this? Every time you try to get the drop on me and fail, I'll give you a big hug. And that will be how we say hello from now on." He surprised her by wrapping a single arm around her shoulders and pulling her smaller body closer to his in a one-armed hug. "Because you know I love you, my little bee." Naruto purposefully ignored the growing look of annoyance on Soy Fan's face and instead chose to take the increasing red hue on her face as something more positive. How wrong he was. XXX As members of the 2nd Division walked through the HQ near Soy Fan's office and quarters, they hurried on past her door as the clear sounds of crashing and conflict as well as angry curses from Soy Fan herself and insane laughter from a male voice rang out. They had immediately deduced the male voice as that of one Uzumaki Naruto, and after how he had taken to creating chaos all over the Seirei and picking on their captain, putting his own life at risk in the process, they decided to stay out of it. Omeda, Soy Fan's lieutenant, knocked on the door carefully and stuck his ear to the door to hear the sounds of crashing and yelling from within. Captain? Are you alright in there?" "She's fine," he heard a gleeful male voice answer in reply. "Soy Fan is just showing me how much she loves me right now. Oop, I think she's about to try and give me another love mark." Jinteki Shikusetsu, Suzumaki, sting all enemies to death. Hornet. Omeda stepped back when the power of Soy Fan's Zanpakuto was released. "Hold still, Uzumaki, and just die already." A sound of metal clashing with metal sounded out before the sounds of the fighting stopped. However, Naruto spoke again. "Soy Fan, I know you love me. You know you love me, and I can guess that your entire division knows that you love me. So just stop with the games and come out with it already." Omeda heard her growl before it suddenly stopped. "Okay then. You're right, Uzumaki. I love you so much. From the way she said that, Omeda could believe that she was saying that tauntingly with a smirk on her face. Dadbeo. Naruto gasped in shock and horror. She fucking told you too? He yelled before a solid blow and a grunt sounded out along with the noise of his body hitting the wall was made. I need to go deal with this little problem I'm having today with a certain kitty cat. Bye Soy Fawn. Bye Soy Fawn's lieutenant guy. A sound of a burst of speed was followed by Soy Fawn quickly opening the door to her office with Omeda backing off roughly 10 feet. She gave him a glance before walking down the hall with the Shikai of her Zanpakuto still active. I'm going for a short exercise run. I should be back before midnight, Omeda. You're in charge until I return. He said before she vanished in a burst of her shunpo. Got a captain. He stared at where she had been before scratching his head and picking his nose. Maybe that Uzumaki guy is right. I've never seen her so fired up for anything. XXX. The next day, Naruto never thought he would actually have wanted Yoruichi to stay away from him. If he had told himself that on the day he had met her, then he would have slapped the taste out of his own mouth. However, today was far from fun for him to be around Yoruichi. So Naruto, are you going to get into any more fights before we leave today, Dadbeo? The dark-skinned goddess asked him with a humored smile on her face. All Naruto wanted to do was shut her up, somehow, but he couldn't catch her to make her shut up. Stupid Shunpo. Why did she have to be faster than him? Yoruichi-chan. Naruto whined pitifully, please stop talking about that. I almost never say that anymore. Only when I'm pissed off or get really worked up somehow. This brought a smirk to her face as she sidled up to him and bumped him with her hip. Oh, so thinking about me got you all worked up now, did it? They were walking towards the former site of the Tsukyoku to be taken back to the living realm after Naruto had gratefully collected his sage coat from Unohana at the 4th Division HQ. What about me could possibly get you flustered, him? Naruto grinned at her. I could start listing things, but the first half dozen things I'd describe would be parts of your anatomy. He then frowned. Did you have to tell everyone about the Dadbeo thing though? I would have been taken way more seriously around here if you had managed to keep that little piece of information to yourself. I mean, even Retsu-chan laughed at me. Not with me, at me. She'll never think I'm cool if she thinks of that word every time she thinks of me. Yoruichi kept the look of a cat who just swallowed the canary around him, and he relented. Oh, who am I kidding? I can't stay mad at that face. You're so sexy. I already knew that, Naruto. Yoruichi said matter-of-factly before she reached somewhere on her person and handed him a note. This is from Yamamoto Sotaichu. I don't know how he kept finding me to give me these things when he could have just found you. You weren't that hard to pin down in one place, were you? Naruto just took the note with a sly smirk, getting her to palm her face. Never mind, you probably were. She noticed his face turn thoughtful. What's the matter? Naruto pocketed the note. Well, Yamamoto Gigi wants me coming back here regularly with updates on how my team is going. So I'm probably going to be working Urahara a lot more these days, since he has the only Reishahankonki, spirit exchanger, in the world of the living that I know about. He then blinked and gave her another look of contemplation. Do you think he'd want to be on the team? Or do you just think he'd rather yank favors out of me unofficially? Yoruichi rubbed her chin in thought. Probably the second one, just to mess with you even if he did want to join. Did the note say anything else? Naruto nodded. He's going to accept my request. I'm going right into Hueco Mundo when they all figure out Aizen's location. Yoruichi raised an eyebrow. This concerned her extensively. She had to say, what about a way to get back? Don't need one. He answered quickly before a sharp blow to the back of his head forced him to cover up and crouch down. Ow. Why would you hit me? What did I say now? Yoruichi kicked him in the side and pushed him over onto the ground. You are not going into Hueco Mundo just like that because you're angry at Aizen. Do you think you're the only one that wants to get a shot at him? She pressed her foot on him when he tried getting up off of the ground. Even if you could get there, you wouldn't be able to get yourself back. Can you open a garganta? What's a garganta? He asked, getting her to press harder on his chest in response. Ow. What? That was a legit question. She nodded and spoke. That's the point exactly. You're strong. You're really strong, but Aizen is too, and he knows more about the situation than you do. Why do you want to fight him so badly anyway? You weren't even manipulated the way the rest of us were by him. I can see that someone like him is the lowest of the low. Naruto said seriously. From that little interaction I had with him I could tell that he's the kind of guy to turn existence into his own little chessboard. And his ambition, whatever it is, to become God, like he said, is going to cause a lot of upheaval, which is going to lead to fighting, which is going to lead to many people being killed for what? For one man's grievance against nothing. He rubbed Yoruichi's leg gently to try and calm her before removing it from his chest. I don't know what he did to make you so angry, because you seem madder than just for him escaping from here, but he's obviously been playing too many sides against another. Yoruichi looked down at him with softened eyes as he started standing up and dusting himself off. Naruto. Naruto cracked his neck and walked over to where the rest of the Ryoka were standing, waiting to be sent home through the Shinigami portal to the world of the living. He turned over his shoulder and looked at Yoruichi. I'm telling you this right now, Yoruichi-chan. When I was young I was too weak to stop things like what this Aizen guy wants to do before too much damage was done, and even now there's a chance that I can't put this guy down, but you know what? That doesn't matter. The first swing at that piece of crap I can get I'm taking, because I've learned that some people just do not need to exist in the world. Yay. Be you. Naruto you. Yoruichi didn't know what to say to the look of serene reassuring confidence on his face. On the desolate, windy terrain of Tsukyoku Hill, Naruto looked like some kind of superhero as his open jacket blew in the wind along with his golden locks. All she found herself able to do was to smile back at him. I don't know what you're going to do. I don't know how you're going to do it, but you know that you have my support. Besides, I owe you one insane, utterly suicidal trip to somewhere I'm not guaranteed to return from anyway. Naruto's grin finally resurfaced as he grabbed her hand and walked with her to the unopened portal where the others were waiting. That's the spirit. Besides, wherever that Hueco Mundo places you and I can just pretend that it's a romantic getaway or something. You're so stupid, Yoruichi thought to herself, tightening her grip on his hand. Stupid, but for some reason I really like it. And you're going to need my help because if anyone knows things about the Soul Society that someone in your position will need to know, it's going to be me. As she looked over at him she couldn't help but wonder, why was the sun hitting him like that and making him look so powerful? Was she losing her mind or was it just that, nature responds to me, thing he told her about before? You're going to need my help, and I think I'm going to be more than happy to give it to you. She smiled as they finally got over to the others. Yukitake, who was there with Rukia to open the portal, handed Ichigo some strange pendant. Yoruichi knew exactly what it was and could only laugh to herself as it seemed that Yamamoto wanted to believe in Ichigo as well. Now everyone, how about we all go home? XXX. 1st Division Headquarters, Captain Yamamoto's office, quarters. Sasaki Chojiru, Yamamoto's lieutenant, a man that appeared to be middle-aged with short, silver hair looked at the aged leader of all Shinigami forces. Do you really think it was wise to give the Kurosaki boy free rein to be a proper substitute Shinigami? More so to allow that Uzumaki to form his own group in the world of the living? Yamamoto took his underling's skepticism about his decisions on Naruto and Ichigo without any offense intended. He understood that he was simply worried of the consequences of doing so. We have become predictable, Chojiru. The older man admitted. This allowed Aizen to play us against one another and take advantage of the Soul Society's chaos generated by our lack of ability to bend and change with the situation and work his schemes without our knowledge to the wiser. He stroked his rather long beard. I have a feeling that the decisions I have made on those two will provide the perfect wild cards that we need to weather this coming storm. After returning from the Soul Society and being picked up by Urahara and Tite on what could only be explained as a flying carpet, the youngest members of the group, Ichigo, Chad, Uryu, and Orihime were dropped off at their homes. Naruto and Yoruichi went back to Urahara's place being that Naruto didn't have anywhere to return to anyway. After arriving at Urahara's, the group wound up sitting around the table with the hat-wearing man staring down his fellow blonde with a grin on his face. Well? How was it? Did you bring me anything? Got a postcard? Any messages for me? Nope. Naruto said firmly before rethinking his statement. Oh, actually yeah, I do have something for you. Urahara blinked in confusion. He had been joking. He didn't really expect anything from the trip to come back for him. Really? What is it? A fist to the face that knocked him across the room was what he received from Naruto. Naruto stood up with a tick mark on his head and his hand formed after an angry punch. He took a series of deep breaths and sat down. That was for everything since we met. Up to and including introducing me to the Vizards and sending me half-cocked into the Soul Society without so much as a word of warning or any advice. Urahara sat up with a bloody nose, and that's all I'm getting for that. He said disbelievingly, not really too upset about just one punch, a punch that left him conscious and coherent. And what about Yoruichi? She's half the reason you even went in the first place. Naruto wiped Urahara's blood off of his knuckle. Meh. I'm going to get her back for that later too. He ignored Yoruichi's squawk of indignation and kept talking. Besides, since she was the one that requested me to do this, she has to pay me now. I would say that this qualified as an S-rank mission. He started doing math on his hands. Okay, 1 million Ryo was the going rate for an S-rank mission back when I was a kid. That exchange rate would be 10 yen for 1 Ryo. He pointed firmly at Yoruichi. You owe me 10 million yen. Yoruichi's jaw dropped as she started sputtering nonsense before being able to form coherent words. 10 million? What the hell are you talking about? I can't afford that. She stood up and pointed back at him accusingly. And aren't you rich? Couldn't you do something out of the kindness of your heart for once? Naruto shook his head. I'm a mercenary, Yoruichi-chan. If I don't charge you for stuff like this, then I'll have to give other people breaks, and I'll lose my clientele. He ignored her yell of, what clientele? And kept reasoning. I can give you a friend's discount though. 50% off. That means you owe me 5 million now. Isn't that better? He felt the yellow eyes of the former noble glaring at him as Ururu handed him a cup of tea. Just because I'm loaded doesn't mean I can start doing things for free. The economy is tumultuous these days, he said as he calmly took a sip of his beverage. I'll show you tumultuous, you stingy bastard, Yoruichi said, cracking her knuckles before Naruto held up a hand to stop her. What now? You could always work it off, Naruto said. You're supposed to be on my team that I'm building anyway. Just do this one mission for me and we're all even again. Fine, Yoruichi said, ready to be rid of her debt that she had placed herself under. What do I have to do? Sleep with you? He noticed his eyes flicker to hers. I'm not sleeping with you over a debt. Naruto rolled his eyes. I would never ask you to do that anyway, Yoruichi-chan. He said in a heartfelt manner before he turned serious and pointed at her. You're not going to be able to use that excuse. When I wind up sleeping with you, it's going to be because we have something between us that made you feel it was appropriate, not because you owe me something. Yoruichi crossed her arms with a twitching eye. Are you done? Naruto nodded and took another sip. Then what's the mission? Naruto lowered his cup and smiled. Urahara, I'm going to need a very, very good Gigai. Huh? The store owner said in confusion before elaborating. I'm sorry, I tuned out after you said she had to do a mission for you. I assumed that would mean, sleep with you, and I kind of went scatter-brained for a second imagining me in your place. He felt Yoruichi's death glare shift to him and he immediately stood up. But you said Gigai? I heard that. Follow me, sir. We have a wide selection of Gigai to choose from. He grabbed Naruto's arm and dragged him out of the room. Yoruichi looked at the open door as the only ones left in the room now were her, Tessai, Ururu, and Ginta. Hey wait, what do you need a Gigai for? You're human already. XXX. No, Yoruichi said firmly. Yes. Naruto replied brightly. Urahara behind him, happily holding up a blank Gigai. This is your mission and requires a Gigai, unless you'd like to front me your pay when we start getting it for our work, he suggested. I don't think I even care that much, Yoruichi said, turning away from them. The fact that you're going to even try to have me do that, I don't think I could bear it, she said, shivering slightly. Naruto wrapped his arms around her to stop her shivering. Yeah, I know. I'm going to be doing it too, but that's why I need you there with me. So that I don't die of boredom or kill someone while I'm there. Keep me in line. Yoruichi whipped around in his grasp and looked up at him. But why? Why would you possibly need me to go with you for what you're about to do? I don't want to go anywhere, let alone all the way around the world. Naruto frowned, because it's going to be a long fucking trip and I need you to come with me so that I don't get bored. Don't you want to learn more about me anyway? Why can't I just keep going as a soul? She said, pouting, or as a cat. I could go as a cat, that would be just as good, right? Naruto shook his head. Nope. I can't talk to a soul or a cat in public without being seen as totally insane. And besides, as far away as we're going, I need a sexy companion to make myself seem more awesome. Urahara appeared in front of her, waving the Gigai. Come on Yoruichi, he's paying top dollar for this Gigai. You know you want it. Well, you know that I want him to buy it so that you have it. Come on, it's going to be a good one. I hate using Gigais. Yoruichi chewed on her lip as they kept pestering her about the Gigai until she finally caved. Fine. I'll use the damn Gigai and I'll go with you on your stupid trip to nowhere. Where are you even going anyway? Naruto wrote out a check to a salivating Urahara. I'm just going to swing by somewhere and grab someone that may or may not be useful for this. He seems like he would be if my memory is correct. Urahara was mumbling to himself about how much money he had just made before he stuck the check inside of his clothes. Uzumaki-san, I have one request of you. Whatever it is you're going to do. He reached elsewhere and grabbed Jinta, shoving him in Naruto's face. Take this guy with you. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Why'd I want the angry, red-haired, bat-swinging runt to go with me? He said before dodging a pair of tiny legs that kicked out at him. Oh, runt. You, Jinta said, squirming in Urahara's grip. Naruto chuckled. Ooh, he's got a little bite to him. Fine. I'll drag him along, but don't cry to me if he winds up dead or something. Doesn't he have school? Don't you? Jinta replied, being set down on the ground. Technically I do, but I'm never going to go. Naruto said, and it's summer vacation. Oh, answered my own question. He scratched his head and looked at Urahara. Why do you want me to take Wonderbrat? He's going to cramp my style. What style? Yoruichi asked as she held the Gigai she was going to have to use and stared at it distastefully. What possible style could you be talking about? Naruto grumbled in reply. Don't worry about it. He looked down at Jinta, who was staring up at him with the usual punkish look on his face. Are you going to be a good brat or am I going to have to tape your mouth shut all the way on the trip? Urahara interjected at that moment. So where are you going and why are you even going there in the first place? He asked Naruto. You don't seem like the kind of guy that really goes anywhere with any real purpose in mind. I need a team. Naruto said. I'm supposed to be building something of an observational first response team here in the world of the living since all of Aizen's plans apparently danced around every single person in the Soul Society. He looked at Urahara with a grin. You probably wouldn't want to, but I'll ask you anyway. Do you want to help me out? Maybe, Urahara said, holding his fan in front of his face. What am I going to get out of it? Money. Naruto started listing things. A better rapport with the Seirei. Money. You get to hang out with me. Money. He stopped listing. I'll have more when things get underway, I guess. I'm doing this because it has to be done. Urahara thought about it for a moment as he paced around. I need to think about it. Things are going to be getting a lot more hectic soon. He stopped walking around and snapped his fan shut. I'll tell you what. You go on your trip and come back and I may have an answer for you. Cool. Naruto said. I'll leave tomorrow and should be back in 4 days. Hopefully with everyone else intact as well. Oh, and I'm going to need another Gigai as well. The best you've got, because I've got an idea. XXX. 2 days later, Naruto, wearing casual clothes for travel, a dark blue button-up shirt and a pair of black slacks and shoes, led Jinta, in his normal t-shirt and shorts, and Yoruichi, who was wearing a casual purple dress and a black short jacket. The three were walking through a particularly deep section of woods that Naruto seemed to be blazing as if it were ingrained in his memory about where he was trying to go. Yoruichi didn't have much of a problem following him all over the wildery area. Although it was a long walk, it was very calm. Jinta on the other hand had been pestering them both all trip and both were pondering how much trouble they would get into if they left him there. Either way, Urahara was going to get it when they got back to Karakura town. Why did you agree to take the kid? Yoruichi asked Naruto as she watched him seamlessly navigate their way through a densely wooded area of the forest. Naruto shrugged as he kept leading the way. A little adventure is good for a kid like that every now and then. He looked back. Hopefully we lost him back there. He should be fine if we leave him here, right? When I was his age I probably could have made it home from a place like this. Yoruichi let a lightly amused smile cross her face. So why are we even out here? You said you wanted to come out here to check for something, but you never said what it was. Naruto smiled back at her. Can you feel that? He said as he jumped up a small rocky outcropping and held his hand out for her to take. Yoruichi gratefully accepted his help. Her Gigai body was very well made, but she was as weak as a human in this form. Once he pulled her up and steadied her, she actually could feel something in the air. Actually, yeah. I can. It feels like a very dull underlying of power. Where are we? Nowhere but a simple national nature park, Yoruichi-chan. Naruto said as he continued to lead her along. But back when I was a teenager this place was actually a place that belonged to my friend's clan, and he used it to make sure that a certain someone was bound here for all of eternity. Yoruichi raised an eyebrow. Then why are you coming here? Are you actually going to let him out? Naruto nodded. Why? You just said he was supposed to stay here for all eternity. Is this person immortal like you? Yep, Naruto said before backtracking a bit. Well, not exactly like me, but he is immortal, in pretty much every sense of the word. I can't kill his body, it's already dead. But I can still handle this guy. He looked around before letting out a yell. Jinta. Where are you? I'm over here, you lousy old fart. Naruto got a tick mark on his head as Yoruichi let out a giggle. They continued on towards where they heard Jinta's voice as Naruto let out some angry mutters about respect and how he wasn't old. Eventually they came to a clearing where Jinta was sitting on the grass waiting for them and seemingly staring at some kind of spirit that was bound to the ground by a chain centralized in a small hole in his chest. What the hell is this single spirit doing here in the middle of nowhere? It's like he's a demi-hollow or something, but he's the most chill demi-hollow I've ever seen. Yoruichi looked at Naruto. Of course he knew someone that was turning into a hollow. Why wouldn't he? She thought, fighting the urge to facepalm when Naruto greeted the spirit. Hello Hidan. Naruto said brightly at the soul, who turned to him and went wide-eyed. Yep, I'm back again. Oh man, Hidan said dejectedly. He was dressed in a frayed and tattered black cloak with red clouds on it. He reached off to the side where there appeared to be a large scythe with 3 blades on it off to the side, but it seemed to swim just out of his reach. Damn it, I forgot. The scythe is too far away from where my physical body is, or else I would have cut this loud-mouthed runt down before you got here. He plopped unceremoniously on the ground and glared at Naruto. So what do you want this time, kid? The last time you were here 20 years ago you stood here and gloated about how you kicked the Akatsuki's ass and blah, blah, blah. He grunted. So what do you want now? To get you out of here. Naruto said calmly. I want you to work for me. I can get you out of here and get you back to living in the real world again, and seeing as how you didn't age just like me after all of these years, you're still immortal. Thank Jashin. Hidan replied sarcastically. It was cool until right when I got buried here by what's-his-face. I survived for around 2 years and then I died. My body needed nutrients. Jashin-sama couldn't take away that little disadvantage. And then I didn't go to hell or heaven or whatever. I was just stuck here in the stupid sacred forest. Alone. I forgot how long it's been. Over 2,000 years. Naruto answered him. I told you that last time I was here. Hidan's eye twitched. I haven't killed a single person in over 2,000 years. How have I not been excommunicated from Jashin-sama? Jashin? Yoruichi said as she walked closer to Hidan. Jashin-sama? She analyzed Hidan's face closely, unnerving the man, but there wasn't really anything he could do to push her away from him. What is that? And how have you been here for 2,000 years and not turned into a hollow yet? It should have happened after 1 year. Jashin-sama is my god. He is the embodiment of slaughter and violence. I don't know what a hollow is, sexy lady. Hidan said absently. Anyway, what are you doing hanging out with the stupid blonde kid? Yoruichi backed away from him and jerked her thumb over at Naruto. For now anyway, I'm supposed to be working with him and I'm more or less his guide of sorts to the Soul Society, the place that souls go when they die. She turned to Naruto. Are you really so sure we can use him? He doesn't seem like he'd be easy to control. How would you even get him out? In a minute, Yoruichi-chan. He said before focusing on Hidan. So how about it? You get to fight tough people that are going to stomp a mudhole in your ass and might be able to kill you for real. And you might just get to meet Jashin for real if he's really a hollow. What does he look like? Hidan smiled as he hadn't gotten to talk about Jashin in thousands of years. Jashin-sama has the appearance of a normal human white skeleton. He wears an ornate crown on his head, bracelets on his wrists, and has a royal purple coat with black fur lining it. Every time I activated my curse I saw that regal sight, the embodiment of death. Except for the last time when I lost that battle here. Yoruichi looked over at Naruto and silently mouthed the word, hollow, probably Vasto Lord. To him, getting a nod from him. How are you going to get him out? Naruto walked over to Hidan and looked him into the eye. If I let you go, you're going to work for me. I'll pay you, but you can't go around just killing people anymore. He saw Hidan's mouth open to snap at him when he continued, but you'll get the chance to fight a ton of enemies, and you'll even get the chance to see Jashin firsthand once I find a way to reach his realm. Hidan's eyes sparkled at the prospect, although he wouldn't be able to express his faith anymore. But none of that was his fault. He'd tell Jashin that once he saw his god firsthand. Fine. Get me out of here and I'll do whatever the hell you want. Cool. Naruto said. Cut the chain, Yoruichi-chan. Naruto. Yoruichi yelled at him abruptly, grabbing his cheeks in her hands like he was a child. If I cut the chain he'll painfully turn into a hollow, and I can't perform a kansu, soul burial, on him. Even if I do the kansu he'll go to Rukongai and we'll have to look for him all over again. That could take years. Besides, he's bound to this land or else he would have probably become a hollow millennia ago. Naruto let out a huff. Fine, I'll do it myself. He said as he started making hand seals. Your way actually would have been more pleasant for him. He likes pain. Gadoo. Outer path. Naruto's Rinnegan activated as an ethereal, demonic-looking head emerged from a purple border at Naruto's feet, lifting him off of the ground as he stood on it. Sorry Hidan. This is going to suck until I can get you what I need. What the hell are you doing? Hidan asked before the tongue of the head grabbed him tightly and ripped him from his chain before it swallowed him whole and receded back into the ground. As the head disappeared, Naruto turned back to Yoruichi and Jinta with a satisfied look on his face. Alright, I've got what I came for. Let's head on home. The other two watched Naruto shove his hands into his pockets and whistle a jaunty tune as he proceeded to walk away. Come on you guys, I only rented that car for 5 days. We have to go back now. Jinta pointed at Naruto with a shaky finger. Did he just call up some weird creature to eat that guy's soul? Who the hell is he? Yoruichi just herded the boy along to follow after Naruto. Just go. The more questions you get, answers to the more pop up later. XXX. 2 days later, evening, highway back to Karakura town. Yoruichi sat in the passenger seat of a black convertible that Naruto had rented to drive across the country and had her eyes locked on Naruto as he kept his own blue orbs on the road. So are you going to tell us what the hell we just saw you do back there? Naruto panned his eyes over to her for a moment before looking back forward. I'm pretty much the bridge of balance in the world of the living. I can interact with souls and I kind of could before I could freely see them. Now I can do more than just rip souls out of the bodies of others though. He playfully tapped Yoruichi on the nose. I could pull you right out of that gigai of yours if I wanted to, right now. Yoruichi smiled at him before looking in the back to see Jinta asleep on the seat. She turned back forward and let out a yawn and shut her eyes to catch a few Z's. How could a human have amassed so much power? Even before you knew what you were really doing you had the power to affect life and death. I can't imagine having a role like that. Something that's so far beyond what your species should be able to do. I wasn't really that far ahead of everyone else at first, Naruto said to her quietly in case she was really trying to get to sleep. There were a lot of humans that were really powerful. They were scary strong people. If they were spiritually aware, then I could only imagine the trouble a lot of them could have given the Shinigami and Hollows. He looked over at Yoruichi and gave her a smile. I know that all of this stuff is going to be more trouble than I've had in more than 1,000 years, but meeting people like you guys has really made me think that it'll be worth it. He reached out to her and rubbed her cheek with the back of his hand. I haven't had anyone other than myself to fight for in a long time. Yoruichi grabbed his hand and kissed it. Don't just think that goes one way. I'll fight for you too, Naruto. She noticed him giving her a strange look. What? You act like a pervert and an immature idiot sometimes, but when you're alone or around me you're actually really deep. Do you really trust me that much? Naruto shrugged his shoulders. You're what I would call my first real friend in hundreds of years. Likewise. She replied good-naturedly. When I left the Soul Society, the only friend I was able to keep in contact with was Kazuki. And then after 100 years there was you. You're very good company, Naruto, and you're cute. She lay her head down on the armrest between them, and I keep thinking that you're going to be way more important than anyone will ever know. Naruto took a chance on pissing her off or not and ran his free hand through Yoruichi's hair, getting a surprisingly content sigh from her, prompting him to keep doing it. I'd like to say that you're wrong, but the last time I said that I ended up saving the world, so I'll just agree for now. She mumbled a sleepy reply. Good night, Yoruichi-chan. We'll be back in Karakura town by the time you wake up. XXX. The next morning, Karakura town, Urahara shop. Naruto, Yoruichi, Urahara, and Tessai were all in the training area of the shop with Urahara holding a blank gigai. So what exactly are you going to do? The shopkeeper asked his fellow blonde. Naruto grinned. I'm going to grab someone's soul and I'm going to slam it into that gigai, and that person is then going to work for me, because that's how I recruit. He scratched his chin. I'm going to have to train him to fight hollows and stuff, but hey, it should work, right? Naruto made a set of hand seals. Gadu. Outer path. Naruto's summoned demonic head appeared and spat Hidan out. Only his appearance wasn't what Naruto figured it should be. Oh shit. Yoruichi, Urahara, and Tessai looked at the remerged Hidan strangely as a crushing Ryotsu settled over them all, freezing them in place for a moment. Eventually the curious hat-wearing men pointed at him. Is he supposed to look like that? Tessai, get Aikido ready. Like the strongest Bakudo you've got, right now. Kind of? But hold up on that for a second. Naruto replied curiously, tilting his head as if a different perspective would make his old enemy appear any different. Did you ingest any blood? I don't see how you could have. You're a soul. Still, what's going on? What? Hidan asked testily as he noticed everyone staring at him strangely. What the fuck are you all looking at? Am I that interesting? He asked rhetorically, getting a resounding, yes, from everyone around him. Really? How? Well, Naruto said before making a hand seal, maybe it would be better for you to see firsthand. Henge no Jutsu, Transformation Jutsu. No fucking way. Hidan went wide-eyed at what he saw Naruto transform into. Hidan had the appearance of his face being an actual skull. His slicked-back silver hair still existed on top of his head as he had actual eyeballs and his normal purple-pink eye color. He still had on his beaten-up black robe, but that was because he hadn't changed his size. From what could be seen of his body, his skin was entirely black with white parts of his skeleton in specific areas sticking through. His entire ribcage outline could be seen over his black skin, for instance, along with a hole in the middle of his chest. His left arm also had 3 blade-looking plates jutting from the bottom side of his forearm, and his right arm had a long, thin-looking blade-like plate coming from the knuckle of his middle finger. I look so badass. What is this? Yoruichi stepped back slightly before speaking to Naruto. Are you telling me that you broke his chain of fate when you yanked him inside of that thing? And when he came out he was a hollow. Not only that, but he turned into a damned Vasto Lord. She grabbed Naruto by his collar and pointed at Hidan. How? That doesn't just happen. That takes years. Hidan was still marveling over his new appearance. Is anyone going to tell me what's going on here or what? Man, I look so awesome. Naruto was doing the same, poking at Hidan and seeing if he was real or not. Yeah, someone tell me too. How do hollows even get to being Vasto Lords in the first place? He was then joined by Urahara, who decided to join in on the analyses of Hidan's new hollow form with a notepad. Urahara was scrambling down Hidan's appearance, while he was still tame for the time being anyway. Jillian-class Mainos are made of tons of hollows. Only those that have a particular soul that can assert dominance have the potential to evolve to the next level of Vijukas. Then they have to devour an obscene amount of souls to stop from devolving and even possibly evolve further to Vasto Lord. I think it takes another requirement, but I don't really know what that is. Naruto decided to ask Hidan himself. Hidan, I've never had my soul pulled out by the Gadu, so can you tell me what that was like in there? Maybe that would help us understand. Hidan then glared at Naruto. You have so many freaky monsters in there, it's not even funny. I couldn't even count them all. From the moment you shoved me in there to the moment you took me out, I was fighting these ugly monsters, all with weird masks. There were some huge ones the size of massive buildings, and then some that looked more like deformed humans. Long story short, I fought through all of them right up until you pulled me out. I didn't even know I had been changing in appearance the entire time. Honestly, it felt like I was one with Jashin-sama again the entire time. It was a blur. A bloody blur. How many did you kill? Yoruichi asked him. If he can't remember much, that means he must have devoured them as well. To evolve in just 2 days, he must have killed an obscene amount of hollows, and have already been one of terrifying power in the first place. So many. Hidan replied somewhat wistfully. Man, blonde demon kid was so spot on when he said he'd get me tons of fools to slaughter. I'm definitely working for him now. There were so many left too. It was like an endless flood of them. Naruto blinked blankly. Okay, then the Gadu has tons of souls in it from when Pain used it, or the original Rikudu Sennin, and they were all in there so long that they turned into hollows because time is super distorted in there, seeing as how they were all intact. That's my theory and I'm sticking to it. I wish I had known that a long time ago. At least I've never pulled anyone's soul out and kept them in there like I did with Hidan before now. Yoruichi palmed her face. You turned your first recruit into a hollow. He's a mindless killing machine now. Naruto gave her a look with a raised eyebrow. He seems the same to me. He turned to Hidan. How do you feel, Hidan? Like I have a barely restrained bloodlust, only held back by the fact that it's really inappropriate right now to kill you. I can feel how strong you guys are. He said seamlessly before shoving Naruto and Urahara off of him. Sick of being prodded at. Still doesn't mean I won't do it anyway if you don't back off. Naruto and Urahara caught themselves and steadied their balance before Naruto poked the former Shinigami captain with his elbow. See, he's fine. He was like that all the time back when he was alive too. Hidan nodded in agreement. He would just randomly kill people all the time for his religion. There's a reason for that. Hidan admitted. The only way I really stayed immortal was by killing people like that, and activating my curse. I really don't feel very different at all. I mean, there's a part of me telling me to kill you all, but it's not really any different from when I was alive after the ceremony that made me immortal took place. He pushed his finger into the hole in his chest. I'm going to miss the stabbing myself in the heart thing. It never killed me. Yoruichi stared at him wide-eyed. So you really were a human touched by a hollow. Your hollow hole is where your heart used to be, and if you could stab yourself there when you were a human, you must have been developing a hollow hole the entire time. All right. Naruto yelled at last. Enough messing with Hidan. He's not berserk and set on killing us all. Yet. Hidan added absently. Yet. Naruto repeated with a light glare to the infant hollow. So he's still cool. And if he ever feels the urge to kill overwhelming, then I'll just pull him into the Gadu and he can kick some more ass. It's simple. He grabbed the nearby Gigai that Urahara dropped nearby and held it up steady. Now I'm going to. Are you sure that's going to work? Urahara asked him once he realized what was about to happen. I've never seen anyone put a hollow into a Gigai before. Naruto and Hidan looked at each other before the hollow spoke. I'm a soul, ain't I? Why can't I go into it? he asked. Before Urahara could think of an answer, Naruto activated his Rinnegan and his hand was surrounded by a black aura, and that is all the reasoning that I need for attempting this. I do stuff that no one has ever done before all the time. I'm a trailblazer, he said as he grabbed Hidan by the face and slammed him into the Gigai, watching as it took the form of Hidan's human body. And now we need to get him some clothes because nobody wants to see that. Naruto turned away from Hidan, covering his eyes like pretty much everyone else. Hidan looked at his human form, naked, and smirked, sweet. Heh heh, this is awesome. And I don't feel like killing you all any more than usual. He noticed them all giving him a dry look. Right, I'll work on not wanting to kill people so much anymore, but can I go back into that Gadoo thing soon? That was great. Yeah, Naruto said, if he's a Vasto Lord and that's supposed to be the strongest kind of hollow, he'll be fine. Plus he'll need the practice in battle, won't he? Urahara was rapidly writing in his notebook. The Gigai steadies the volatile forms of the more powerful hollows, keeping them from having to devour other hollows to keep their level of strength. Hence the lack of the empty feeling in Hidan. This is a major breakthrough, it's seriously important. He ran over to Naruto. I'll definitely join your team if stuff like this happens to you all the time. And as long as I can study Hidan here. Hidan had just been handed undergarments, a black shirt, and blue jeans by Tessai. As long as I get paid and get to beat up more of those hollows, I don't give a damn what you do with me. It's my job now. Urahara went over to Naruto and shook his hand. Then you've got yourself a handsome scientist, Shinigami, humble shopkeeper on your team, Uzumaki-san. Hidan's Gigai is the kind that will suppress his Ryotsu from those that can sense it, since he clearly can't control it himself, and it would alert far too many people. This is so exciting. Hidan finished getting dressed and smirked at his human appearance. Alright, I'm human for the first time in 2,000 years. I'm hungry as hell. And there's only one thing I want to eat. He yelled ferally, getting others to look at him, prepared to fight in case he was ready to devour their souls. Spare ribs. Let's go, Uzumaki brat, you're paying, he said, strolling his way out of the training room. And once again I find someone older than me to call me a brat. Naruto sighed and shoved his hands in his pockets as he slowly followed after his former enemy. I have to go take care of this guy and make sure he doesn't fuck up on his first day back in the world again. I'll catch you guys later. He walked past everyone, stopping at Yoruichi before giving her a quick kiss on the cheek, not saying another word as he left. Urahara grinned and slid up next to a rather stunned Yoruichi with his fan in front of his face. So what was that all about, huh? He asked in a teasing manner. The new guy's getting all sweet with you, isn't he? And you didn't kick his teeth down his throat after he did it? Her stunned look dropped and her face took on a more playfully prowling appearance. Now why would I kick his teeth down his throat unless I didn't want him to do what he just did? I guess the game is finally afoot, Naruto. You're going to fall for me before I ever fall for you. I'm Shihuan Yoruichi, damn it. XXX. With Naruto and Hidan were walking down the street casually, with the latter eating a full takeout tray of spare ribs that were keeping him docile enough for Naruto to tell him about the work that was to be done and lay the ground rules of the future. Okay, so you can't just go off and kill anyone, or else an entire force of people will come and kill you. There are way less places to hide out when you do that because pretty much the entire world is settled. There are very few open concealed areas to turn into hidey holes and the like. The forest I picked you from is one of the good ones left. So how strong are we? Hidan asked through a mouthful of food. You know, as far as humans go, because it was actually pretty crowded at the top when I got buried. Hidan had found that his Gigai could use chakra, but his reserves were very low when compared to his original body. Naruto quickly answered him. I'm number 1 by a serious long shot. As far as humans go. With you in that Gigai you should be around number 2, if not number 2 outright, because you can actually use chakra, and you're probably going to start making it so that you can use more chakra while in your Gigai. You won't be able to use any ninjutsu in your hollow form though, there's no physical energy for you to manipulate. I already know how I fight as a hollow, Hidan said, continuing to eat as all of the people and traffic in the streets passed them by. Man, the future is noisy, but yeah, it's kind of instinctual. Not that much different from how I'd go berserk to get someone's blood when I was alive. Plus I have a ranged attack too. You want to see it? He asked, rather excitedly, as it was clearly one of an extremely destructive nature. No, Naruto replied in a dry manner, because I know that you would just shoot off a big-ass Sero, hollow flash, and blow 10 blocks of this city to hell. I'm glad you don't know how to get out of that Gigai yet. Hidan blinked in realization as he stopped eating. Yeah, that's right. How am I supposed to fight if I can't even get out of this body? The hollow me would tear this wimpy human me to fucking shreds. Chakra or not. Naruto raised his right arm firmly in front of Hidan's face. All I have to do is slap you on the back of the head with the black glowing hand I threw you in there in the first place, and then you can fight. That'll have to do until Urahara gives me a Gikongan, artificial soul pill. So you can get out all on your own without my help. He then let out a sigh. I'm sorry though. We're enemies a long time ago, but I never wanted to turn you into a hollow. Hidan began laughing. You're sorry? Why are you sorry, Uzumaki brat? This is everything I could have wanted, he said in a satisfied manner. If I hadn't been bound to that sacred site I would have gone to hell. Wasn't looking forward to that. It would have been nothing but personal torment, no one to kill. And that Soul Society place you told me about, don't make me gag. A place like that would have been torture for me. But now I'm free, I have a cool new form and more power than ever, and the instincts I've always had have a purpose now. I think I was made to be a hollow in the first place, and I even get the chance to maybe one day see Jashin-sama so that I can properly thank him for the gift he bestowed upon me all those years ago that my human body still has. What? Naruto said, that's not your same body. Hidan smirked and pulled up his shirt to reveal a poorly bandaged wound over his heart. I know. While you were getting the food I tested it in the bathroom with one of your kunai that I swiped. Hurts so good, brat. Naruto looked at him with a twitching eyebrow. I can still kill your soul. Not the body though, Hidan replied ecstatically as he threw away his tray in a nearby trash can. So where are we living, Uzumaki brat? Unless you're going to mooch off of the guy with the bucket hat. I'm handling that now, Naruto said confidently. XXX. When the fuck did you buy this? Hidan asked, slightly stunned at the size of the place Naruto bought. It was an old 6-story office building not far from the restaurant where they had gotten food. It was in a rather run-down, abandoned part of town, but neither of them cared too much at all. The privacy was just icing on the cake. The place was totally vacant, but for a pair of ninja the place was perfect to set up shop, especially with Naruto's plan for a team of sorts. Naruto looked at the place, smiling at the purchase. I had my clone look for the place when we were getting food and I was showing you around. I wrote it a blank check to fill in once it found a place and it did not disappoint. I know what I like apparently. There's like no one else around either. That's perfect. Now I just need to get Urahara over here to set me up with that cool training place he has under his shop and in the Vizard's place. Hidan walked around the bottom floor and looked back at the blonde that had bought the place. How did you afford this building and how are you going to furnish it? Naruto shook his head and walked past Hidan to check out the upstairs. Aside from the fact that the place was dirt cheap, I'm rich. Actually, rich would be an understatement. I've been alive roaming about for centuries upon centuries. Do you really think that I haven't made a ton of money? I'll have spaces filled out in no time. Now come on, we're going to go pick offices, rooms. I've got dibs on whichever one is supposed to be for the boss. XXX. 3 days later, Naruto sat on the roof of his new headquarters of sorts, simply meditating. The place was remarkably quiet, although there was no nature. Something that Naruto had gotten used to with the changing of the world since his youth. So this is where you've been hiding since you came back from that little run to the Seirei? The voice of Shinji broke through Naruto's meditation. However, he knew the man had been there. He could sense him as he came closer. So what are you and that weird silver-haired guy doing all the way out here doing nothing? Naruto opened his eyes and stood up to face the de facto leader of the Vizards, setting things up. Speaking of which, how would you like to work with me? Shinji raised an eyebrow in confusion. That Aizen guy was able to run circles around the Seirei higher-ups, and whatever he did to you might have been prevented if a group that didn't have to cow to the Soul Society norms existed. I'm supposed to be that group. And Yamamoto is letting you do this? Shinji said skeptically with his arms crossed. That doesn't sound right. Naruto dusted the back of his pants off. He was the one that asked me to do it. I'm not under his command. I'm not under any kind of order from him. This is a separate entity from anything in the Seirei. I'm in control. I'm getting up to speed really quickly about all of the things I need to know in my position, and I want you and the others to work with me. Shinji sighed. No deal, Naruto. He said, shaking his head, it's still too close to the Gotei 13 for us. You're a good guy, but this is still something we don't really want to deal with. Naruto frowned visibly at his answer. I was going to go after Aizen once I found a way to get to him. I'm still going. I just hoped that you guys would be up to being on my side once everything got started. We'll see, Naruto. Shinji said, adjusting the hat on his head. If we stick our necks out too far they might get cut off, you know. Aizen was the one that forced our hollow powers onto us. He's the entire reason that we were forced to leave the Soul Society. If we hadn't, we'd have been executed. Having hollow powers is the ultimate taboo. We're on your side though. Naruto nodded and placed his hand on the man's shoulder. Same here. If you guys ever need my help, I want you to call me. You guys are good friends. He then smirked. I also think I know someone that you're all going to want to speak to. Has Urahara told you about a little someone called Kurosaki Ichigo yet? Yoruichi-chan thought she was able to keep his hollow powers away from me, but that's something she can't hide. A chuckle came from Shinji. He has. We're going to wait until school starts back up for him before we try to do anything though. Do you think the kid will let us train him though? Fuck no, Naruto said, laughing at the prospect. He's going to fight you all the way. He doesn't want that power. Good luck with that. Actually, Shinji said with a grin on his face, there is something you can do for us that might end up with us working with you. A gesture of good faith, if you will. Naruto went frozen for a moment. I don't really like the way you worded that. This is going to be something I'm going to hate doing, isn't it? Shinji's grin grew further as Naruto's brain tried to quickly process what it was that the man wanted him to do, finally settling on the only option that would make sense in context with their conversation. No, I'm not going to do it. There's no way. He said, crossing his arms in an X pattern. I'm the leader of a fledgling unit of fighters and I have to babysit a newly turned hollow that used to be my enemy 2,000 years ago. There's no way I'm going to go to school at a time like this. Shinji's was highly amused at how Naruto shot down going to school so swiftly. And you think I want to be caught dead there? The only reason I'd possibly be okay with going to school would be because of all of the cute girls there in the school uniforms. He trailed off as he saw Naruto's face pondering his last statement. You want to go now, don't you? Pervert. Naruto glared at him lightly. You're calling me a pervert? Half of you and your crew are all perverts. And I swear Hiyori's hiding some kind of latent streak of it because she's too defensive whenever something like that is brought up. You would know considering what you did the day before you left, Shinji muttered to himself before he was grabbed by Naruto. Oh, you don't remember what you did? He said with a sly grin. No, I don't remember. Naruto shouted in reply. Does it have anything to do with why I woke up naked? And what does it have to do with Hiyori? Shinji waved it off. Oh. It's better if you don't remember it. Her too. Otherwise she might hunt you down and kill you. He snapped his fingers. Hey, that's it. I can just blackmail you into going or else I'll tell Hiyori what you did when you were smashed. Naruto was about to viciously argue and possibly throw the man off of the roof of the building before he took the time to think about how violent Hiyori was normally. If what Shinji was saying was true, then what he was planning to tell her would piss her off more than anything Naruto had previously thought possible, and Naruto seemed to have a problem with avoiding angry women. All I have to do is go until I can shove Ichigo your way, right? That's all you have to do, Shinji said, and you still have another month until you have to go. It should be simple for you, Mr. Immortal, and drop by sometime. Everyone misses you. Naruto scoffed. Yeah, they miss beating me up. He let a small smile come to his face. Tell them I'll be by soon. I just have to get all of this stuff in order first. I'm building this thing from scratch, you know. Will do. Shinji said as he calmly walked off of the roof into midair away from the building and Naruto. Catch you later, Naruto. XXX Naruto and Yoruichi, for Urahara, were trying to ascertain exactly what had happened to Hidan inside of Naruto's Gadu. Yoruichi had come over, marveled at the job that Naruto's clones were doing at fixing the place up, and made her way to the roof so that they could get down to business. So what do you remember happening in there? She asked. Hidan sat, pondering the chain of events that occurred after Naruto dropped him inside of the Gadu. Well, it dropped me inside of this place that was filled with freaky silvery trees. Trees so tall I couldn't climb them to get to the top. Then I felt a ton of pain and blacked out. Yoruichi nodded. That must have been your holification. Go on. Hidan did as instructed. When I woke up, there were all of these wimpy monsters just hiding behind the giant trees staring at me until I stood up and asked them what they were looking at. Naruto and Yoruichi gave him a dry look as the new Hollow's boss looked at him. I'm getting the feeling you said more than that. Hidan rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. Okay, some offensive slurs and threats of disembowelment were made. But then they started attacking me, and that's when all hell broke loose and I started running through them like my scythe through some soft gelatinous material with not much give to it. Eventually stronger ones showed up, and I killed them too. Then everything just starts blurring together. Yoruichi took in all of this information, strong enough to butcher a seemingly unlimited wave of Jillian-class Manos, and even a few Ajukas from the sounds of it right off the bat. She turned to Naruto and smirked. I guess you were right about how strong a few other ninja of your time were. She then turned back to Hidan. And for the last week you haven't felt the need to go and kill anyone? No hunger or anything? Hidan shook his head. Again, not any more than usual. When I was alive I felt the same all the time. I don't feel any different. And if I'm hungry I'll make a sandwich, he finished jokingly. Naruto finally spoke up. I need to go into the Gadu and see what he's talking about. Hidan immediately raised his hand. I'm going too, he quickly said. I haven't killed anything in a week, Uzumaki brat. I'm so proud of you, Yoruichi said sarcastically before turning to Naruto. Why in the hell would you want to go in there? That place will be teeming with hollows. Naruto put his cheek in his hand as he explained why. Because as the current Rikudo Sennin, it's my job to know what exactly goes on inside of my own technique. While Hidan's the only person I've used it on like that, Pain used it on tons of people. If there's another whole plane of existence in there I have to know exactly what it is. He saw her giving him an even look that showed she wasn't entirely convinced. I can spit myself back out on this side when I want to leave. I've never been inside of it before, but I've seen it done with Pain's other bodies. It doesn't hurt, Hidan added. Well, it doesn't hurt until you wind up on the other side and fall to the ground. Naruto started to walk downstairs to his office to get some things, and on that note I'm going to go grab some stuff and then me and Hidan are going to go on into the Gadu and check it out. Wait, Yoruichi said, stopping him at the entrance to the stairwell back downstairs. I'm going too. As long as you're sure you can get us all back out. Naruto gave her a confident nod and kept walking, shutting the door to the lower levels behind him. Hidan chimed in after Naruto left. The Gadu thing will just appear and snap you back up and spit you out on the other side. He can summon it here or there since it appeared there too, he said, believing his input would make her more inclined to go along. Of course if you don't go that's just fine with me too, sexy lady that has a crush on Uzumaki brat. He grinned at her when she glared at him. You can't kill my human body. Yoruichi's glare turned to a smirk. My name is Yoruichi. And Naruto's going to pull you out of your immortal body when he uses his Gadu. Shit, Hidan said as he trudged past her down the stairs. I keep forgetting. The body is immortal but the soul isn't. XXX. Naruto's office, living quarters. A few minutes later, Yoruichi and Hidan stood in Naruto's room as he stood dressed in the gear he wore to the Seirei. Alright, are you guys ready to go? He channeled the yin chakra to his hand, turning it black and reached inside of Hidan's body, pulling out his hollow form as his Gigai dropped onto the floor. Both Yoruichi and Hidan nodded, giving him the cue to begin hand seals. Then let's do this. Gadu, outer path. The demonic head rose from the ground with the purple energy barrier at the ground as it used its tongue to pull all three of them inside of its mouth. XXX Naruto and Hidan yelled loudly as the Gotei spat them out on the other side, allowing them to fall freely to the ground below, crashing in a heap. Yoruichi landed nearby them on her feet, looking at the disheveled heap that they were tangled in. Naruto stood up first and looked over at Yoruichi, about to ask her how she did that. "Oh, never mind, I already know how you did that. Cats always land on their feet." Yoruichi gave him a V sign for victory before looking around. A human, a hollow, and a Shinigami. One hell of a team to investigate the middle of nowhere, she said as she walked over to one of the trees that Hidan had been talking about. "He's right about these trees though," she said, looking up at very small holes at the top of what would be the canopy. "They're huge, and they're not made of wood. This is some mineral." Hidan stood up and looked around. "I'm just here for the kick-ass fighting that I'm going to get into. You two can sightsee." Naruto knocked on one of the trees to find it incredibly solid. It's like a forest of trees made of rock. Is this really the inside of the Gotei? XXX on a large throne inside of a palace room. Aizen Sosuke sat as a figure walked towards him. "Ah, Haribel. Thank you for coming so quickly," he said pleasantly. "The Numeros have been hearing things about activity in the forest of Manos. Would you mind heading up a small scouting party to head down there for me? It should be nothing really. There were rumors of a powerful new hollow that appeared there. Maybe we can recruit this new hollow." The woman he was speaking to had the appearance of rather dark skin, green eyes, messy, short blonde hair that she had braided in 3 locks and had the lower half of her face covered by the elongated collar of her clothing. She wore a black and white boots, a black sash, a white hakama, and a fully zipped up white jacket with the aforementioned elongated collar. However, it was cut very short to reveal her entire lower torso and much the lower half of her rather bountiful bosom. At the end of her sleeves she had a pair of black gloves on her hands, and on her back was a zanpakuto, a rather broad and short weapon. She bowed to Aizen. "I will have my Fracione head down with me to check the area. If there is anything there we will find it." Aizen simply smiled his usual confident, calm smile to her in reply. "I know that you will, my dear." This it for today guys. This was the part 4 of What If Naruto Was Immortal Naruto X Bleach. Stay tuned for more.